Kia ora koutou and welcome to this edition of Decker's Shining a Light, called Bronwyn Scott Aho. Today we're turning the light onto Nina Oberg Humphries, Tola Director of Tagata Moana Trust here in Ōtautahi Christchurch. Nina is part of the Waitaha Digital Equity Network. She's also an incredible artist and passionate advocate for Pacific excellence in STEAM. Nina, you are a friend, collaborator, and an inspiration. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
Awesome. Let's kick off with the question about your why. Like, what first inspired you to focus on digital inclusion for Pacific people and your wider mahi focused on this community?
Kia ora koutou. I grew up in a family of women that were incredibly servant to their communities, and that being our Pacific and Cook Island community here in Ōtautahi. And so I guess community work is in the blood. And when it comes to like core values, mine are definitely around community service and equity, as well as identity. And a few years ago, before Tagata Moana, I happened to work at libraries where I was in charge of Pacific genealogy and trying to connect Pacific members of the community to their whakapapa. And it was incredibly difficult to do that. Like, if you are a Pacific person, most of our, our family ties and our whakapapa are done orally. And as we grow up outside of the Pacific, we see less of that being handed down. So this was kind of one issue that was going on that I was seeing in front of my eyes. And then on the other hand, after that, I had moved into another part of libraries where we worked with community groups and schools around digital literacy and fluency in our communities. And I saw there that particularly our Māori and our Pacific students, that the way that they were being taught wasn't really conducive to their cultural backgrounds to be able to get the most out of them. That's my own opinion. And that by the time our institutions would come to the play of those needs, the gaps would just get larger and larger and larger. And so when we started Tagata Moana Trust, which I co-founded with a friend, Janai Yosefa, it was in the hopes of bridging these two things for our community and working as an intervention service to try and narrow that gap. And that was really about safeguarding our language, our culture, our identity, being able to hand on our traditions with we're in this changing environment, in this digital world, and then also how is it that we can upskill, intervene to make sure that our people have the necessary things to be able to be not only great connected Cantabrians, but citizens of the world. And so we were just seeing huge inequities from not being able to use devices to then how is it that we can prompt people to think of themselves as working in STEAM. And so I guess that's the big why, is we just wanted to see more people being in higher paid jobs, which STEAM really is in terms of our average incomes, and in future-proof jobs where they could be themselves and help to safeguard our culture, our language and identity into the future. So I'm completely driven by that because there's not many of us doing it yet. Our Pacific communities represent the worst statistics across everything, be it health, education, wealth, and we saw this as a vehicle to be able to try and change that narrative on our own terms.
Wow. Yeah, I I always enjoy talking with you because the passion just comes through. So it's awesome to be reminded of your why and to share it with our Deka community. I'd love to learn more or hear you talk more about Tagata Moana Trust, what the kaupapa is on the daily, and talk about, and if you can share some of the impact that you're seeing and the kaupapa is having.
I mean, if I do that completely, people might have a conniption because I feel like I have that every day. But we're all about growing Pacific futures in STEAM, and the way we do that is through the amplification of Pacific arts, language and culture. And we have a number of programs that are really holistic, that look at the whole pipeline of what we think would get people into STEAM careers. So that's things from, we run an in-schools program where we teach cultural components, STEAM skills, and then our young people smash that together to be whatever it looks like for them. We do mentoring and NCA support. We have an after-school STEAM program where it's like, let's just play and make things, which we get mentors and people from industry that come from our community to come and talk to these young people about careers and pathways. We run a mobile makerspace, which we take around the South Island every holidays, and it's really about tech tasters, but everything bridges off our culture and identity, because what we see, as I was talking about before, is less people are handing that over. There's less access to that, but our communities really want it and need it to be able to feel good in themselves. So we're very vast in our programming, from what is code to let's do a Cook Island language class. We also run a gallery in Ōtautahi in a community space. We're the only Pacific art gallery in the South Island. And for us, when we talk about STEAM, we are kind of the industry for the arts here in the South Island. And it's really about kind of promoting lots of different sparks along a journey so that we can try and get as much uptake, because half of the problem is that our families aren't aware of things that they could go into, and then our kids, by the time they get to, I'd like to do this, they're not set up in the right way. So the day-to-day can change from having people drop in and then we're teaching them how to use a laser cutter to others that are coming saying, hey, I need some help with my math and my in my science exams, or it could be, oh, look, I'm really looking for a job in this, and we just try and hustle in all areas to be able to provide opportunities. We're an extremely small team, but we're all very passionate about what it is that we do. And so, I mean, I can see myself, one day I'm scrubbing the floors and the next day we're doing a speech. So it's very varied, and it's good like that, because it means that we can be really flexible and adapt to the changing needs incredibly quickly.
Yeah, that's so important. You've got to listen to the voice of your community, and when you're embedded in that community, that's where the magic really comes. Speaking of magic, you're an artist, so you really put the A in STEAM, which is awesome. What magic do you see happening when the arts is included in the digital world, and what might that have, what good things come out of that for our young people?
Yeah, so for me, it's like art is life and life is art. So I'm incredibly biased. But that really is off the premise of, it doesn't matter about the statistics, like the negative statistics. We will never be in the deficit when it comes to our arts. And Pacific people in this country are leading world stages when it comes to telling our stories on artistic platforms, exhibitions, all sorts of things. I mean, I've been very fortunate in growing up with a lot of artists who I completely see as innovators that are working with, creating buildings, that are looking at sculpture, the way that we interact with each other. And so for me, it's actually the connection piece. Once you spark creativity, you build huge amounts of confidence in people, which then enables them to look at all aspects of their life in a creative way. And I guess the impacts of that have been that we bring people in that might do a language class or a weaving workshop or something like this. But then the conversations are able to quickly change to, well, how does this relate to STEAM? What kind of things you could do that will get you into these kinds of careers, or that they're actually creative. A lot of this work is around problem solving. And so I think that when you elevate the A, it's really the vehicle for the rest of, I guess, the STEAM spectrum, because otherwise it can feel really foreign. And it's a great way to be able to ground people and to make them feel connected. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we do in the arts is based around our culture and our language. And I will say that in the Pacific, there's no word for art. It's just part of your life. It has function. And so when we actually delve into that and try and look at the connections of art, be it oratory, visual, song, dance, is that there's so many aspects of that are inherently STEM. And so it's about bringing that to the forefront so that we can see real connections. Because we've always been, I mean, this gets used a lot, but, we traveled big oceans. We built huge structures. We did irrigation systems that went up huge mountains. And that really is all the arts of our people and of our ancestors, as well as our science and our math. And so for us, we just see that our communities will grab onto that a lot quicker and easier, because it's something that's just embedded and ingrained. It's inherent. And it is something that our communities, I think, want to engage with and thrive in. As soon as you think about the art world or art, I think, in this country, and unfortunately because of Western viewpoints, it's like a nice to have, and it really isn't. There's so much change that comes from that, be it well-being, well-being or skills development. And that's the privilege that I've seen from having an arts education. Like, I've got no problems building something, making something, trying to problem solve something, but also critique. And our artists tell stories of our times. And I think that you have to be able to critique and critique the world that we live in, to be able to build curiosity, to build solutions. And for me, that's done the most in the arts.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. One thing that you mentioned there was around like the value of art. And I don't know the exact figure off the top of my head, but you think about the economic value of the arts sector in Aotearoa, and it's billions of dollars that of benefit that is recognised through the arts. And it's something that a lot of people either forget or don't really prioritise. But to hear somebody as passionate about you describe that, like how can you not put the A in STEAM, eh? How can you not?
Yeah, it seems silly.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that the arts sector do really well is collaboration. Now, I'm really lucky that I get to spend a lot of time with you, with my Digital Future Aotearoa hat on. How important is collaboration between organisations in accelerating digital equity, and what do you think we could all be doing more of?
Yeah, I think it's vital. Like we're all charitable entities or just wanting to serve our communities. And I think that if you're working in digital equity, you are working there for a reason. You're working in the community sector for a reason, and that's to uplift your communities and our people. And so I think that it's incredibly important to work with other organisations because we can't do it all. And especially in these times where, the economy is a real thing, we need to work even more together to be able to make sure that we can do the best we can with what we have. And sometimes that means pushing aside egos. Sometimes that means, you're not leading something, or you have to give way on something else. But really, if you are thinking about your community and what's going to uplift them, then you will work together with other organisations, because it will only prove to have a larger impact, because a bigger voice, a loud voice, is heard more often than a quiet one. For us, we've had the great privilege of working with, with the likes of yourself, with RAD, with Digital Future Aotearoa, with Te Hapori Matahiko, with lots of other smaller groups as well. And it's meant that we've been able to do more. I think that's the big thing. It's meant we've been able to do more and help each other to have the same outcome that we all want. So I just think if you're not collaborating with other organisations, then have you got your people in the right place? Are you uplifting your people in the best way that you can? Because our voice needs to be loud and big and bold and brave.
It sure does. It sure does. It's cool to see that you've got examples of how Tagata Moana Trust is collaborating, and the importance of being able to function and thrive in the digital world. As life becomes more digitally driven, what's at stake if we don't bring everybody along on the journey?
What's at stake is that, it all collapses. That's a real risk. Our people don't become connected, our people don't have the skills, our community suffers. And we've got to do whatever we can to make sure that doesn't happen. I think that's the real risk. And our voice isn't amplified, particularly in times where it needs to be bigger than ever, because our communities, are suffering huge amounts of change. And that's from jobs to health to all sorts of things. And that really digital equity is at the heart, in this world, about how we can uplift others to be able to, help themselves to be able to thrive as well. I think that's the big thing, is that people want to do stuff, but they need to be often enabled to do it. And if we don't have a large voice carrying that forward, then we're going to see even greater economic, health, education disparities. So we can't let it happen, team.
Yeah, 100%. So we've talked about how we all need to be prepared and what we can do to uplift each other so that communities can thrive. What about taking things away? At the moment, there's a proposed social media ban for under 16s. You do a lot of work with Rangatahi and the next generation coming up. What do you think about the proposed social media ban for under 16s?
Yeah, I know. I've been thinking about this. And part of me is like, yeah, I'm conflicted because I spend so much time on social media that it's probably gross. Then we all do.
We all do, absolutely. We're the ones that are demonstrating that behaviour to our young people.
Yeah. So I think about that and like, what does that do to our brains? And how does it make us feel about ourselves? But I also think that our young people should be given the decisions to make that, should be able to make those decisions, because I'm only one voice. And for many young people, that might be the place they feel the safest, or the place they feel heard, or offers them, might be their spark. And so I'm a bit of a twofold about it, but I don't also think it's my decision to make. It should be with those young people.
Yeah, there's something to be said about open and honest communication with young people. But on the flip side, also thinking about the harm that social media can and has done and is doing.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm with you. I don't know what the answer is. But
I mean, like 5 years ago, I probably would have never taught, this language around abundance and authentic self, and all these things are really important. But also it's like you're on your phone, you're like, oh my gosh, I should be running more. I should be eating this. I should be doing that. And like the stress that it causes you, it's caused me. And I think that I'm incredibly fortunate because I grew up in a time when, it's like there was internet, but no one had it. And then there was internet, and then there was social media, and then there were, but it was like Bebo. And then we move over to here, and then we move over to this. And now it's just everywhere. But I think the great thing about this, my age is being able to be in all of it and have a time where I never had it. And so therefore my choices are really different. As in these days it's just everywhere. I've got my 5-year-old daughter saying, are you scrolling? And what does that mean? Well, what is it that they're being shown that then will equal their choices in the future? So it's a hard one.
Yeah, it's very complicated as well, especially when you throw in that, there's a lot of people out there that have a phone but perhaps don't have money on their SIM cards. And therefore social media and free Wi-Fi is the only way that they're able to communicate with their friends in whānau. And banning that could have serious implications on safety and how people live their lives.
Yeah. It is a hard one.
Yep.
And how do you monitor that? I don't know. I mean, how do you monitor that? Because I know plenty of young people that when they were, when we're 15 years old, were doing things that they shouldn't have been doing, and, thinking they were 18. So how do you monitor all of that as well? Is quite difficult.
Yeah, definitely. Something to think about anyway. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to watch the process through our legislative endeavours and how that goes. My final question is, if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing to accelerate digital inclusion here in Aotearoa, what would it be?
I guess the ultimate thing is that everything would just be free. Everything is free. Everyone has, and that means that everyone has access, and they have less barriers to things. But I think about what I could change now. I think that's like utopia. I'd like to change the minds of, our government, of our tech sector, to actually look at their involvement in this issue and what they could do to champion change so that people can be included in conversations. That would be the big thing. But ultimately, I like everything to be free.
Yeah, we touched on the collaboration piece before, and what I'm hearing, and maybe I'm hearing it because I agree with it, is if there was collaboration between the community sector, industry, and government to move Aotearoa towards equity, and of course digital equity is part of that, we're just going to, our society is just going to be moving towards better, and that can only be a good thing. So I know you and I always have this kōrero about what we can do to bring industry and government along for the ride, and that's part of DECA's role here too. And that is always an evolving conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, some people won't listen and some people are ready for it. But, some people are born over here and some people are born over here. But we all have equal responsibility to narrow that gap. And that gap may never come together, but we can all do things to narrow it. And that comes down to being distinctly human and caring about people, because we need relationships to be able to actually physically be in this world. And if they listened to that humanness, then maybe those gaps would come back together. But I have radical hope that will happen. And it is people like yourself, like the different organisations that are around the country that are the real light in places where it doesn't feel like there is one. And unfortunately, a lot of our people that are making decisions haven't come to the realisation yet of where we're at and where we could be going.
Yeah, I think radical hope is a great way to end this kōrero today. Kia ora e hoa, ngā mihi nui ki a koe. It's been great to kōrero with you and share a bit about both yourself and your kaupapa Tagata Moana Trust with the DECA community. Ka kite anō.